entire universe, from the Aitreya Upanishad. We wish for you a good experience, ladies and gentlemen, Inland Empire.
Inland Empire is haunting. Its director, David Lynch, is known for making films that are considered weird, but this one is by far his most undecipherable work. Most people, after watching a Lynch film for the first time, look up its meaning on the internet to understand it better. But in the case of Inland Empire, the lack of content is astounding. Considering this, it makes sense that there are those who would rather just convince themselves that this film isn't supposed to have any actual meaning, that it's only supposed to be an experience without telling any actual story. But Lynch's personal philosophy tells us he considers doing this as wrong, as he revealed in an interview. When asked about whether he makes his films weird for the sake of being weird, he replies by saying,
"No, you never do that to an audience."
He holds the belief that clues are beautiful because we're all detectives who mull things over and then figure things out. He says the fans don't need him to help them out in figuring out his films, and that the beauty is in doing it for yourself, while telling the audience the meaning robs them of the joy of thinking and feeling it through to come to a conclusion by one's own merits. In the case of most films, it is practically impossible to have all the answers. Sometimes people look too much into small details that are just the product of randomness or were chosen with no reason in particular, like the blue box and the key from Mulholland Drive, for example. Other aspects are based on real-life experiences like the intercom scene from Lost Highway, or visitor number 1 introducing herself as a new neighbor. In summary, this essay cannot promise to have all the answers, but rest assured we'll give it our best try. The film starts with Hollywood actress Nikki Grace being visited by an old woman who got the information that Nikki was about to act as the lead of a film. We later learn that the role she got is for the remake of an old film about a Polish folktale that was said to be cursed. The film wasn't finished because the two leads had been murdered. The original story was about a couple of married lovers who had an affair, were caught by their spouses and then murdered by each other's spouse. Before the female lover is killed, she prostitutes herself to survive after being thrown out of her husband's house. While reincarnation isn't mentioned explicitly, the concept is implied with many characters being shown to have lived a previous life. Lynch has stated in the past that he believes in reincarnation, and the whole film is known to be plagued with displays of Lynch's spiritual beliefs. Before some screenings of the film, he likes presenting a quote from one of the most important Hindu texts, referencing how even though the Polish folktale is an invention by humans, they end up living in it and not knowing how to get out. He also used the quote in Twin Peaks.
We're like the dreamer who dreams and then lives inside the dream.
We are like the dreamer who dreams and then lives inside the dream.
The people living in the film make up their own stories and then live inside them. Thus, the stories become their lives. That's why the curse of the story consists in the actors ending up trapped inside their characters' lives, thus dreaming and moving along in their dreams. Stories are metaphors for lives. Retold stories are lives lived more than once. The variations between each story represent the differences between one life and the next. Some things remain intact, while others change. For example, originally the male lover's wife was the infertile one.
Nie mogę ci dać dzieci. Wiem.
But in the remake is the female lover's husband.
I know it for the fact. I can't father children.
This concept of different variations of the same story is introduced by visitor number 1.
And the variation.
She also introduces the marketplace and the palace, two concepts used by Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, an Indian guru of whom Lynch was known to be a big disciple. The marketplace refers to the problematic limits of ordinary, domestic and public transactions. It's a level of reality at which illusions of stability are promoted by our culture. In other words, it's our day-to-day lives where we can easily get lost on our way to the palace. It expresses the inefficiency of mundane daily matters that do not help us reach the palace, but on the contrary drive us away from it by distracting us. In the film, the marketplace is represented as having several dimensions or worlds. They are all connected by an old abandoned stairway with red handrails, which acts as a kind of portal between these dimensions. It is by going back and forth through these worlds and getting distracted with what is inside them that someone can get lost. This is what happened to the Lost Girl. However, avoiding distraction and staying always focused on your purpose like Nikki is what gets you to the palace. The palace refers to the state of enlightenment. It is the great radiant unity beyond the marketplace. The alley behind the marketplace is the way to the palace. This means that we have to transcend the marketplace to reach enlightenment. The palace is also our connection to the unified field, which is where everything comes from, and is also what connects all things to everything else. The unified field is both Nikki's origin and final destination, symbolized by the mansion where she is first and last seen. In the end, some of our characters make it to the palace, which is the connection to the unified field. Hence the elements referencing many other works by Lynch, like the woodsman sawing logs, reminiscent of Twin Peaks and Industrial Symphony No. 1, Camilla from Mulholland Drive, a train yard worker referencing Wild at Heart, as well as people from different worlds even within the same film, such as Nikki and this woman called the Lady, both from their own reality, as well as the Marine's sister, the prostitute, Nico, and her pet monkey, all from On High in Blue Tomorrows.
He was a Marine from North Carolina. He had a sister with one leg.
My friend Nico, who lives in Pomona, has a blonde wig. She has a pet monkey.
According to Maharshi, true worship of God can only start once the person has reached enlightenment.
Disregarding being from the field of devotion is taking devotion to a baseless. It's like building castle in the air. It's not possible to establish the field of devotion irrespective of pure awareness.
This is why after getting to the palace, these people start praising the Lord with a Christian song.
And when you sing those things, feel those things. You're singing to the Lord, just at the very end there. You know what I mean? Really feel them.
They are singing about the end of the world because when the credits are finished, this fictional world is at its end. In the middle of this, Nikki blows Rita a kiss, which she blows back to her in a scene which raised questions at the Venice Film Festival.
Volevo sapere una cosa alla quale vorrei che rispondesse in maniera precisa. Alla fine del film lei manda dei baci. I baci sono per noi, per il pubblico, per chi ha capito e per chi non ha capito. Vorrei che fosse preciso se è proprio per noi o se il simbolo è un altro.
Those kisses are for you specifically.
This kiss is a metaphor for one of Maharshi's teachings that states that all love is directed towards the self.
One's love is directed to oneself. No one loves anybody else. Every current of love is directed towards the self. Wherever, in whatever direction the stream of love flows, it only flows in the direction of the self. If the self is not satisfied, the current doesn't flow. Every wave of love is eternally, always directed to the self.
Traveling from one dimension to another is something that many characters do in the film, including Nikki, Sue, Billy, the Lost Girl, and the Lady. However, doing it for the first time is accompanied by a sense of confusion and not recognizing familiar places.
Nie rozpoznaję tego korytarza. Gdzie my jesteśmy? To jest ten pokój. Nie rozpoznaję go.
I go across the lawn, and I don't recognize this street. I'm not you. I'm not in my house. I'm in some other place.
We went through the hallway and I didn't know where I was.
Dealing with the supernatural also comes with a sense of time confusion.
Me, I can't seem to remember if it's today, 2 days from now, or yesterday.
The thing is, I don't know what was before or after. I don't know what happened first. And it's kind of laid a mind on me.
Billy went to Nikki's dimension and attended a party where he conquered the Lady and told her he was just passing by. He took her through dimensions to have sex in the hotel. However, she did not get lost and managed to get back to her world first and then to the palace. Each dimension has its own rules when it comes to time and space. In the world of On High in Blue Tomorrows, bilocation is possible.
I thought you went to the circus.
I did.
Well, why are you here then? You're here, right?
Yes.
Near here.
So where are you then?
I'm right over there.
And so is suddenly disappearing, which makes sense since this is a film world and that stuff is possible in films. Time also works differently, not only because it's possible to go back in time using a watch and burning silk, but also because there's a 2-day difference between the calendars of Nikki's and Sue's worlds.
It's a story that happened yesterday, but I know it's tomorrow.
These worlds are parallel and independent to each other. Sue and Nikki have different lives on their own. Sue has memories of back when she was a child decades ago.
I gouged a man's eye out when I was 15 once.
And so does Nikki. The only thing that Nikki did when accepting the role of Sue was creating a bridge between those worlds, where footage from one world would be watchable in the other. Nikki and Sue are still different people, and as such they can each go to each other's world through the portal. However, for some reason, when a person from one dimension visits another, even though that person can see everyone, the people from the visited dimension cannot see the foreign guest.
Uznajesz ją?
Ja nie widzę żadnej kobiety.
Nie wiem, gdzie jestem.
Ja ją słyszę.
A widzisz ją?
Sue visits Nikki's world at least twice. First, when she goes to the set of the film, and second, when she goes to Nikki's mansion and sees her lying on the floor talking to Devon on the phone. Historically, forests were portrayed as the source of witchcraft and evil spirits because rural communities were the farthest and last ones to make contact with Christianity and civilization. Because of this, many of its residents still remained practicing these pre-Christian beliefs. As a reflection of this, the term pagan, which originally meant from the countryside, ended up being used to refer to beliefs different from or contrary to Christianity. This is why all the witches and ghosts from the old tales are always in the woods. The Phantom is no exception. He's a supernatural being who emerged from the woods, and so is the Polish visitor.
Which house are you living in?
Just down the way. Tucked back in the small woods.
As we later learn, watches are used for seeing events from one's past lives. The Phantom was aware of this, which is why after killing Piotrek, he steals his watch, and in the present he sells watches.
That guy, he's been coming round. It's like it was, you know what, selling watches again.
In modern times, he finds the lost girl's reincarnation. He sells her a watch in exchange for holding her hand once again. The lost girl uses the watch to see and learns about her past life. The Phantom had hypnotized Doris to kill her. Looking for revenge, she goes back in time and changes the story by killing Doris instead. However, she gets lost in the process and ends up in a type of purgatory. We know that her plan failed because otherwise we wouldn't hear many years later a story about 2 leads being murdered since Doris wasn't a lead. This is how the lost girl's unpaid bills start as a karmic debt which only she can pay. However, she's unable to do it because she is stuck in that place until her debt is paid. Nikki was born to fulfill that mission as a double for the soul of the lost girl. Because of this, visitor number 1 refers to Nikki as half-born when referencing her in her tale. This is also why when Nikki uses the watch that helps you see your own past life, she sees the lost girl's life. It's also the reason for the kiss to cause them to merge into one, denoting that they were one and the same all along, and that the real protagonist had always been the lost girl. This also explains why, after explaining to Nikki how to get to the palace, she ends by saying,
"But it isn't something you remember."
It is Nikki who receives the clues from the lost girl on how to use the watch. That's why even with Sue dead, Nikki knows what she has to do. But don't feel bad about Sue, she also found out about the watch just a little bit later on. We even see her using it. This is the only way she can tell Mr. K about trying to figure out her past life.
I figured one day I'd just wake up and find out what the hell yesterday was all about. I'm not too keen on thinking about tomorrow. And today's slipping by.
The watch is seen going backwards as a sign that she's going back in time, reminding us of what the Phantom said in a deleted scene about the primary function of the watch being to tell the time.
They took time. What more do you want for a watch?
Which, as obvious as it may sound, is true.
It had something to do with the telling of time.
Sue tells Mr. K,
I was 41 years old in 1960. I'm freaked out about it because I lost a bunch of years.
referencing the lost girl's original birth date and age. If the lost girl was 41 in 1960, then she was born in 1919, so it would make sense for the niece of someone involved in the Polish story to have been born around 1915, thus turning 90 in 2005. Some people believe that the niece in question is visitor number 1 due to Kingsley's description of her voice as ancient and foreign, as well as her curiosity for the film's cast.
Asking in that ancient foreign voice of hers, who is playing Smithy?
After killing Doris, the lost girl walks down the streets of Poland where she meets the Phantom. They both come back from murdering their rivals in this affair. Originally, the Phantom killed his wife's lover, then he found his wife on the street, and then his wife was murdered by her lover's wife. We know that this is how the sequence of events goes because in the parallel story, On High and Blue Tomorrows, Billy is seen killed before Sue in a deleted scene. However, if the lost girl wanted to kill Doris, she had to do it before the time Doris killed her, which was after midnight in the original story. That's why in the remake, the time of Sue's death is also after midnight.
What time is it? I don't know. It's after midnight. After midnight.
It's also why the Polish man tells Smithy to hurry up.
Natychmiast, już po północy!
Sue's murder is happening soon, and afterwards, she is scheduled to find the gun and kill the Phantom. If Smithy doesn't leave the pistol in the drawer on time, Sue will get there before him and will not be able to kill the Phantom after not finding the gun. Once she kills Doris, the modern lost girl finds the Phantom on the street. The conversation that they are about to have is a conversation that the lost girl remembers because they had already had it in her previous life. But this time history is being rewritten. This way, for this second time, Lynch wanted them not to speak in a husband and wife dynamic, but rather
almost like you've seen it before.
This explains why she sounds a lot more defiant and insolent while talking to the Phantom rather than being the submissive and non-resistant wife she was in old Poland, because this is the new modern lost girl, not the old one. The lost girl can't speak Polish all of a sudden when she had insisted that she didn't speak it.
You're speaking Polish.
What's in it?
I don't understand.
That's because the film treats Polish as a sort of magical language. More precisely, it's presented as the language that humans use as a connection to the supernatural. In the film, understanding Polish means understanding how the supernatural realm works. Before understanding it, both Nikki and the lost girl's modern reincarnation have events where they seem to catch only a bit of what they're being told in Polish without being able to speak it fluently. After they understand how the supernatural works, they are able to understand Polish. In the case of the lost girl, she directly speaks it fluently, and in the case of Nikki, although she never gets the chance to do it, she sees all those events happening in Polish and understands everything that's happening. She also understands and replies in English to what the Phantom says when intercepting her phone call.
Pamiętasz? Rozumiesz?
No, because I didn't kill anybody.
What?
I didn't
Ale czy
kill.
jesteś pewna? Powiedz mi wszystko.
Because I've never been there. I don't know where that is.
I gotta go, Nikki.
Listen.
Słyszysz?
No. No, I'm not gonna listen.
Prawda, kochanie?
No, I'm not gonna listen.
Mr. K is a therapist that serves as Lynch's critique to psychiatry, which he sees as interfering with human creativity.
Do you like psychoanalysis?
No, I mean, I didn't have a chance to experience it because I asked the gentleman if it could affect my creativity, the process, and he said, I have to be honest with you, it could. And then I had to excuse myself and go out. Then I asked him straight out, right up front, could this process that we're going to go through affect creativity? And he said, David, I have to be honest with you, it could.
And so then I had to shake his hand and
say goodbye. This
yeah.
is not for me.
Yeah.
On the other hand, he presents transcendental meditation, or TM, as healing and as a remedy for psychological wounds. Lynch is a very open advocate of TM, even having a foundation with the mission of promoting it as a healing solution to many problems. Sue came to a psychiatrist's office in need of help. She was told he would be of great assistance.
So I was told you could help me.
Yet he only lets her go on and on, talking alone without paying much attention to her and being of no help at all. However, at the palace, the place where the enlightened people go, we find TM instructor Penny Hintz credited as the teacher. And no, this is not a coincidence. Lynch is basically telling us that the answer is in meditation and not psychiatrists. In the beginning, Visitor 1 points at a place, and everything that follows is the woman explaining to Nikki what will happen in the future. She also says that she cannot tell the time.
I suppose if it was 9:45, I'd think it was after midnight.
Warning beforehand that her story will be told out of order, and it certainly is. Nikki slowly learns that she is a reincarnation and starts remembering her past life. Piotrek already got knowledge of everything earlier on. That's why he insists on Nikki speaking Polish, or in other words, on Nikki being able to understand the supernatural realm and all of her past story, because she is the lost girl's reincarnation. Little did Piotrek know that Nikki had no knowledge of anything yet. Piotrek plans on forcing his way onto the story to be reunited with her lover from a past life by using his influence and money to be cast in the film. However, the only available role that hadn't been filled yet was that of Smithy, which was the one that the producers ended up giving him. Piotrek hadn't been cast until after Nikki had gotten her role first, which we know because of what Kingsley says while Nikki is getting her makeup done. This explains Nikki's unawareness of her husband's involvement in the film.
Your husband, he's involved?
No.
She didn't know many details about the film at that time. After all, she also denied the existence of a murder in the film, even though it's clearly part of the plot.
Is there a murder in your film?
No. It's not part of the story.
The Phantom does not like what is happening. He wants the lost girl to keep on suffering for cheating on him and for the lovers not to reunite. However, because of Piotrek, he was left out of the new film, so he asks Janek to enter the story again to try to prevent this from happening.
Szukasz czegoś? Tak. Próbujesz wejść? Tak. Szukasz przejścia? Tak, szukam przejścia, rozumiesz?
Piotrek is aware of what the curse of the story is, which is life imitating art. Therefore, he is not happy with Nikki getting the role because this means that now she will inevitably cheat on him. Smithy, the Phantom, and the rest of the team eventually go to Poland to work at a circus, and that's where Smithy is taken by Janek to the seance, where he gets the gun to kill the Phantom.
Pracujesz dla kogoś?
Tak.
To ten, o którym ona coś mówiła.
Ten, dla którego robię.
To. Rozumiesz. Weź pistolet.
Then Janek takes Smithy to look for the Phantom, and he discovers that the Phantom already went back to the Inland Empire.
Nie wiem, gadał Pablo coś o jakimś Inland Empire.
When seeing Sue, Doris remembers who she was supposed to kill in her past life. She starts remembering her previous life. She follows Sue to try and kill her. Sue walks with a screwdriver for self-defense, but now Doris takes it from Sue and stabs her instead. After this, Doris stabs herself and turns herself into the police. But because of her dealing with the supernatural, she too is now confused by time. As she states,
I'm gonna kill someone.
While complaining about the pain caused by the screwdriver she already used for murdering Sue, which Sue had brought from her own house in the first place. Later on, Sue finds the gun and shoots the Phantom, revealing a reflection of herself just like the one the old woman mentioned in her tale. The boy caused a reflection as he crossed the passage, and so did Sue when going through the Axxon N door. After this, evil was born and followed her. We see an evil reflection of Sue following her around, which she even sees and is shocked by. After killing the Phantom, she enters the rabbit's room, but they are invisible to her and she sees that she is inside a film being projected in the same theater where she was just a few moments ago. This realization transports her to the hotel where she kisses the lost girl. Now, the lost girl is not lost anymore and knows the way home. She has reached pure consciousness and Sue disappears. This represents samadhi, the state of mind that according to Hinduism a person experiences after liberating themselves from suffering, the material world, afflictions and obstructions to enlightenment. In this state, the observer, aka the lost girl who has been watching everything on her TV screen, and the observed, aka Sue, whose story the lost girl had been following all along, merge into a single point, leaving only the observer. Finally, the story ends. We are back where we started, with the old woman telling Nikki where she will be in the future. But now Nikki sees her future as a bright one. She realizes that she will eventually reach enlightenment. The reason why only Nikki/Sue and Devon/Billy are the only ones credited with 2 different names is because all the other characters are always the same people, the same souls but reincarnated. For example, Piotrek's character is named Smithy in On High and Blue Tomorrows, but he's only credited as Piotrek. Fia Zeben is no exception. Julia Ormond is credited as playing only Doris Side, even though she also plays a Polish woman, and Doris Side is clearly not a Polish name that would have been used in the first half of the 20th century, and is also not the modern Hollywood actress's name, but rather her character's name, hence the same surname as her fictional husband. But they are all credited with only one name because we are seeing the same souls reincarnated over and over. It doesn't matter which individual names they had in each of their lives, or what names the characters they played had. The only 2 characters whose souls are new to the film are Nikki and Devon. The Valley Girls explain Doris's real identity to Sue by repeatedly asking who is she and showing Doris's face superimposed on her previous incarnation. One of Lynch's favorite films is Sunset Boulevard, a 1950 American film which he considers as perfect. Its influence on Inland Empire is undeniable. First of all, Nikki gets trapped in the story of the film and ends up becoming a mirror of the character she plays. In Sunset Boulevard, the protagonist writes a script for a film where she will star, and ends up the same way as Nikki, stuck in her role. Then we get a scene which is a direct imitation of a Sunset Boulevard scene. It even has the same line. In Sunset Boulevard, the shot is shown as a movie being projected on a screen. The movie is called Queen Kelly, and is starred by the same actress who played the protagonist of Sunset Boulevard, and is in fact being watched by this protagonist. In Sunset Boulevard, she is an actress called Norma Desmond who, similarly to Nikki, lost her notoriety and is trying to get it back. Queen Kelly is shown as one of this fictional actress's past movies. In Inland Empire, the shot is supposed to be from a scene from Fia Zeben, denoted by the cracking sound effect we hear in the background that was added by Lynch to differentiate these scenes. It is interesting because Queen Kelly is a real film, and it was also never finished. This happened because the lead actress left after they tried to trick her into believing that in the movie her character was arriving in a dance hall, which in reality was a brothel. This is why the prostitutes talk about quote-unquote tonight.
Tonight will change that.
Yeah. Tonight will be good.
As if they were planning on going to dance.
You gotta swing your hips now.
When they were in fact referring to prostituting themselves. They proceed to talk about their plan to attract guys.
There's always a chance with like yours, Carrie.
These are gonna bring them in like Flynn.
And then they even start dancing as if rehearsing for that night's dance. Later on, they are seen dancing again. Erich von Stroheim, the director of Queen Kelly, appears in Sunset Boulevard as Max von Mayerling, who is Norma's butler and the director of all her early films, including Queen Kelly. He's almost playing himself because he's acting as a slightly changed version of his real self. This is where Inland Empire took its inspiration to show us actors' lives and their characters' lives merging into one. Both in the film and in real life, this man has a surname of Germanic origin. He was also Austrian and therefore spoke German. Maybe that's why Fia Zeben has a German name, even though the film is in Polish language, filmed in Polish locations with Polish actors. Or maybe this is just a stretch and there are other historical reasons. A final reference to Sunset Boulevard is when street person number 2 tells street person number 1 that she has a friend who looks like a movie star and stays home with her monkey. We see her and her monkey during the credits. Norma Desmond has a pet chimpanzee who dies and she prepares a funeral for. This friend named Nico is a reference to how many women ended up in the same situation as Nikki, and she's not the first one to experience all of this. Nico has a blonde wig and looks like a movie star. She prostitutes herself for a living and has a hole in the bottom part of her body. In the film, infidelity and prostitution are conflated. The Valley Girls are first seen near the red lamp, reminding us of red light districts. Lynch is known to have used lamps as a symbol for prostitution in previous movies.
Prostitutes work in red light districts, and the red lampshade, casting its red light, equates Diane to Hollywood's newest call girl.
The lost girl sees Piotrek's face superimposed on a lamp from the hotel, while the red lamp reminds Sue of her love for Billy. These two characters see themselves as prostitutes for being unfaithful, reflected in one of the first lines in the film.
Wiesz, czym zajmują się dziwki?
Tak. Pieprzą się.
And also in The Lost Girl seeing Sue superimposed on the reflection of a lamp. Sue sees herself as a whore for sleeping with Billy, and this is why the Valley Girls are all talking about the same man. Then they take her to where the murder took place.
Just down the way.
Popełniono tu morderstwo.
To okropne. Gdzie?
Niedaleko stąd.
All of this happens to the sound of Ghost of Love, also heard in a deleted scene when Sue's murder was about to happen. The song refers to the murder, and it is better known for the lines,
Strange what love does.
Ghost of Love was composed and sung by Lynch. In the cases of both Sue and the Lost Girl, they resorted to prostitution after being thrown out of their houses by their husbands. When the Lost Girl asks,
No spójrzcie na mnie. Widziałyście mnie kiedyś?
the prostitutes respond accordingly because by that time she was already one of them. However, when Sue asks the girls,
Look at me. And tell me if you've known me before.
they simply answer,
Yes. We will do that.
They don't recognize her because by that time she hadn't slept with Billy yet, so she wasn't one of them. But this situation changes once Sue sleeps with Billy. The first time the girls see her after this, they greet her with,
Look at us and tell us if you've known us before.
We later see the girls discussing Sue and Smithy's breakup. They give their respective opinions. One says she thought he was the one. Another says she saw it coming. They end up agreeing on the fact that Sue should get over it and quote-unquote tonight will make her stop being sad. As I've explained, dancing is a euphemism to avoid mentioning the fact that they were going to prostitute themselves. So since they would do this in the Inland Empire, it kinda makes sense that they would dance to the locomotion and not just any song. The Inland Empire, where the house is located, is a region of California known for its abundance of trains and rails, hence the elusive sounds in the distance. The Valley Girl's job, besides guiding Sue through this journey, was also to make her realize bit by bit that Smithy hadn't left the house but only Sue's life, and that she was a prostitute the whole time. To achieve this mission, they used the metaphor of dancing. Sue's final breakthrough happens when she screams after looking at the girls dancing and understanding what it really meant this whole time. They all greet her with a big Inland Empire deals to a great extent with acting. It's about the connection between the performer, symbolized by Nikki, and the audience, symbolized by the Lost Girl watching everything on a screen. Lynch shows us the powerful connection that an audience member can build with the performers if presented with relatable stories and characters that they can identify with. Inland Empire explains the creative process of actors and the depths they will go to in order to become their characters, reflecting method acting used by Robert De Niro, Daniel Day-Lewis, or Heath Ledger. It also presents the idea that an actor can really lose track of their identity while playing a role, but then in the long run it's worth it because of the effect it can have on the audience and even the actors themselves. Nikki suffers through her performance, but this performance frees the Lost Girl by providing her catharsis and a feeling that she is not alone. Someone else is going through the same ordeal. This reflects the power of filmmaking and good performances, which can have a deep impact on people. Nikki related to the role she was playing in such a way that she ended up confusing her real life from her film. This leads us to talk about how the Lost Girl also represents us, the viewers. She is watching what we are watching right now, the film Inland Empire, through which Lynch intends to wake us up and rescue us from being lost in the marketplace. All of this is very meta, but it's implied that enlightenment also requires Nikki to embrace the fact that she is also only a character and not real, a fact of which she slowly became aware throughout the film. After all, it's not only real people who can be enlightened. All that real really means in this context is something belonging to the same universe as the person judging it as real or unreal. And we know being real is not a requirement for enlightenment because we have characters from different different universes in the mansion, people from Mulholland Drive, Wild at Heart, Twin Peaks, all of whom from their perspectives would consider each other unreal, since the other characters don't exist in their worlds. Lynch is thus rejecting the idea of labeling something as unreal, offering the alternative of simply categorizing each person or object as real but just not in our world. This is one of the many ways that the film breaks the boundaries of real and unreal. Another example of this is the Phantom, who is the typical personification of a negative abstract concept, like the mystery man from Lost Highway, the bum from Mulholland Drive, or Bob from Twin Peaks. Just like these characters, the Phantom isn't real. He is just an abstraction, a concept we make up in our minds. But also like these characters, the consequences it has on people are very real, and in that sense he is also real. Ideas can be very powerful, but they have no power of their own. They can only have consequences if someone is open to them and acts on them. Sue sees her own face in the Phantom because ideas are a reflection of those who think them up. Like Visitor Number 1 says, evil was born as a reflection of humanity. When watching Twin Peaks, we may conclude that Bob possessed Leland against his will. But after watching the film, we find out that he was actually on that path from way before, and Bob just exploited this by merely aligning with it, fulfilling the Christian belief on demonic possessions, which states that demons can't enter you randomly, but that a person has to let them in order for them to be able to possess someone. Fear Sieben is about a case of adultery avenged by the lover's spouses. When Nikki cheats on her husband and her husband finds out, this opens the door for a merging between her story and Sue's story. When Nikki's action and the story of her film align, she loses herself in the story.
Damn! This sounds like dialogue from our script!
The Phantom didn't force Nikki to cheat on her husband or Doris to kill Sue. The Phantom would be nothing without the people following his orders. While Nikki was only an unreal character, even to the lost girl, her actions had real-life consequences of liberation for her. This is reinforced by other components such as the quote about the spider. All of this goes to show that fictional works can inspire real change and that a story being fictional doesn't make it any less real, even if the spectator knows how fictional it is. Nikki's performance can inspire thousands of people even if she is made to undergo so much pain just for the sake of a character. Something similar happens with all the female singers whose songs are used in the film. They were all known to have suffered lots of abuse while keeping a happy face and continuing to make other people happy. Again, these are the only female singers in the soundtrack. So the fact that they, out of everyone else, were picked to be listened to in Inland Empire is not a coincidence, since the film also deals with issues related to the injustice that women suffer mainly at the hands of men. The unfair treatment of women, or the way they are seen by society, are hinted at several times, with Sue being a housewife and a prostitute, Nikki being subjected to a possessive husband, and the lost girl being married to a murderously jealous and violent man. It is also a possibility that Nikki married Piotrek for his wealth, showing how some marriages can end up being similar to prostitution, where one person puts the money and the other gives good looks and sex in exchange. Most of the scenes we see from the rabbits are excerpts reused from Lynch's earlier web series called Rabbits. Since I want to dedicate another video to analyzing it, in this video I will only be talking about the rabbits in relation to Inland Empire. I clarify this because while the series could have had one meaning originally, it was repurposed for its use in Inland Empire. Following the whole film's production principle of basically just going with the flow, Lynch repurposed many of the scenes from Rabbits and incorporated them into Inland Empire. I don't have much clue about their purpose or meaning in the film, but we have to understand that the rabbits' appearance in the web series and their appearance in this film should be treated as two different things. In the web series they tell one story, and in Inland Empire they tell a different one. Essentially, the rabbits are the Fear Sieben story in its most basic form. That's why they live in room number 47. Their story involves a man stuck between two women. He claims to have a secret.
I have a secret.
Referring to the infidelity itself. His wife says she's going to find out.
I am going to find out one day.
And his lover prompts him to just come clean.
When will you tell it?
The rabbit's home is physically located in the portal between the different dimensions. These dimensions can apparently be connected through telephones. That's why when Billy is too busy conquering the lady, Sue tries to call him, but all she gets is the rabbits. We can also tell that their home is between the dimensions because the cigarette burn on the silk makes a hole right through it, creating a portal between worlds. The rabbits use the same type of portal to teleport Jack in and out of their house. They can also check on what's happening in other worlds through the phone.
There have been no calls today.
And intercept phone calls such as when Nikki talks to Devon and Jack is on the phone listening to everything. We later find out that Piotrek had been traveling between dimensions and passing through the hallway of the rabbit's room while wearing a green coat. He makes noise outside their home and the rabbits hear this.
I hear someone.
It was the man in the green coat.
They constantly say the phrase,
"It was red,"
referring to the unfaithful women's blood spilled in their murders. We know this because when Sue is about to be attacked, Mr. K says,
Czerwony.
Czerwone being Polish for red.
To było. Czerwone.
Jack also says,
"Who could have known?"
wondering how her wife found out about the affair. Sue gets out of Mr. K's office and is freaked out about knowing that Doris is trying to kill her. However, she then remembers all of this is just a film and none of this is real. To prove this, she snaps 4 times, and on the 4th snap, all the girls snap with her at the same time. When she reaches the 7th snap, marking the numbers 4 and 7, she accepts her fate. When Doris approaches her and takes the screwdriver, she doesn't try to get it back and submits peacefully. Something that is important but often overlooked is Sue's tattoo. At some point in her life, after being thrown out of the house, she got a tattoo with the letters LB and a red line on her right hand. Some theories try to explain what the letters mean, but what's certain is that the tattoo helps us tell whether the person we are seeing is Sue or Nikki. Sue dies on the streets of LA, and she has a tattoo in all of those scenes, even when dying. After Sue dies, it's Nikki again, and the tattoo disappears. However, Nikki knows what she must do. She must become Sue once again. She needs to go to the other world and get the gun to kill the Phantom. In order to do this, she takes off her blue robe because it belongs to Nikki and not Sue. She goes to the portal, and as soon as she enters Sue's world, she becomes Sue again, and the tattoo is back. In Inland Empire, Axxon N is the longest-running radio play in history. Like we've explained, the longest tale in the world refers to people getting lost in the marketplace. Considering this, it makes sense that the radio play is being broadcast from the portal between dimensions. Its floor even has a radio wave motif. This was not coincidental but intentional. Axxon N was a project Lynch had for a web series, but he never finished it. It was supposed to star Laura Dern and Justin Theroux. They shot a bunch of scenes without a script, and the project, together with other earlier Lynch productions and ideas, eventually became Inland Empire. We hear the song Polish Poem twice. The whole song is written from the lost girl's perspective and dedicated to Nikki. The lyrics go, "I sing this poem to you. On the other side I see shining waves glowing. It's far away from here, I can see it there. I cry, I cannot feel the warmth of the sun. I cannot hear the laughter. I see the faces but no one comes. Where are you? What will make me want to live and love? Tell me." All of this refers to the lost girl's state of not being able to get out and watching everything on TV. She was certain that someone would come to rescue her, but no one did. But thanks to Sue, things are finally changing for her.
What the fuck is David Lynch doing? He's just sitting on the fucking corner of La Brea in Hollywood with a fucking cow.
If you want to see the greatest performance of 2006, check out Laura Dern's performance in Inland Empire.
Okay, get that on YouTube for you.
Stay out of trouble.
We'll try.
See ya.
Take care.